Let's go back. You're 16 years old. You feel something in your back. At that point, what do you think of as a hockey player?
Just a normal injury. There's not really much to think about. Kind of just kept going through it. Every hockey player battles through injuries. Used some icy hot. Went through some physio. Would do the trick sometimes, but it just kept coming back and back. So we had to go through all those tests, and nothing really came through at the start. It took about 5 months till they finally figured out what was actually going on, and then after that, about a month later is when I had no feeling in my legs and went right back at it. And I did about 7 tests in one day, and the next morning they told me I had a tumor in my back, and went through back surgery the next day. And about a week later, they told me that they had to test the tumor to see what kind of tumor it was, and they came back and they said the tumor was cancerous. So wasn't best feeling, but I knew I had to strap down and just put my best effort forward, and I knew I was going to beat it no matter what.
You had to hear that word that nobody wants to hear. Cancer, one of the scariest words that we have. When you hear that, when it's about you, what's the first thing that goes through your mind?
At the time, nothing really. It was just we were sitting in my room. I was actually ready to go home. The doctors came in and they're like, "Hey, we need your parents to come back upstairs." I'm like, well, I'm about to leave, and they're like, "No, we need to talk to you." So parents came back upstairs, and when they told me, it was just my mom obviously started crying, and I kind of just sat there and really didn't know what to think. Mine was pretty much just blank. It didn't hit me after till, say, 3 or 4 hours later, when I finally realized that I'm going to have to go through this fight, and I can't let down, can't let this beat me.
The fact that you were such a good athlete, how much did that help in that fight to be ready for something like that?
Obviously, it was the advantage. Even the doctor said just how good shape I was in. It obviously helped me battle through it. There's obviously the different stages of chemotherapy. I was at one of the highest ones you can go through. They said that the chemo that I was going through could kill some patients if they put it in, just because how strong the chemo is. So it wasn't a great feeling going through sickness every day. Throwing up 7 to 8 times a day was not the best thing. But it was obviously a battle I couldn't just let go. I obviously had to go through it and just keep battling forward and not letting this get to my head. And obviously there was times where I'd cry and feel a little upset and say, why me? But you can't let that stuff get to you, and you just got to keep battling, right?
16-year-old hockey players are all about getting bigger, putting on weight, putting on size. You were going in the other direction. How low did your weight go?
I went down to 121. I was at 178, getting ready to come here because London was like, hey, you have to put some weight on, you got to put some weight on. So I was going through training, putting some weight on, and then 6 months later, I was down to 121 pounds, and it wasn't the best thing looking in the mirror and seeing your bones kind of stick out a little too much. So, obviously, it wasn't the healthiest thing, but it had to be done, right?
It was part of the battle. In the middle of that battle, you happened to be at the OHL Championship Series. You happened to be at Game 3. The Knights are taking on the Ice Dogs. And you run into Mitch Marner down by the dressing room. Take us back to that moment.
I was just down saying hi to a few guys. Saw Rob. I was just down there saying hello to the boys and good luck for Game 4. And then Mitch says, hey, make sure you're here for Game 4. Like, make sure you're down here. So I'll say I had tickets aside for me for Game 4. I went down Niagara because I live in Hamilton. It was only about 40 minutes away. So I was down for Game 4, and I ended up meeting Matt and Vela downstairs, down by the tunnel in the last minute or so. It's obviously a tight game, 1-0 game. So it was kind of nerve-wracking being down there with the guys. So I thought I was just going to be there celebrating with the guys, obviously shake their hands, say congratulations. And then we get out on the ice, and all of a sudden I just hear my name, and everybody's kind of looking around like, who's Mitch calling? And the guys obviously knew me, were looking at me, and said, yo, go. So I was like, what's going on here? And then all of a sudden here you go. And I was just, I didn't know what to think. It was, it's obviously a crazy feeling being able to lift up the OHL trophy, not even being on the team. But it was obviously a special feeling, and it was a great move by Mitch. He's obviously a very, very great human. He's done a lot for London, a lot for Toronto now, and yeah, I have nothing but good things to say about him.
Now you are back here, not to lift a trophy, not to battle a disease, to make a hockey team. You look back over the last few years. Do you shake your head, or do you try and keep yourself focused?
Obviously keep myself focused. I was iffy about being here. Didn't know if I'd be ready, but I put a lot forward this off season. Did a lot that I kind of went outside of my bubble with my back, and having the rod and screws in my back. Have to be safe about that, but the trainers I have down in Hamilton are great. They were there making sure everything was okay. Had exercises that were going to get me going, but work around the area that was going to be little. Yeah, so it was obviously a big off season, but it's just to be here, be back on the ice competing like this, battling for a spot it's obviously good to be here. There's not too many words to say. I look back at a year and a half ago, and I was sitting in a hospital bed, and now I'm here, so it's really nothing I can say.
Jacob, keep this amazing story going. Thanks for this.
Thank you.